Dr. Sarah Chun stepped into the massive archive chamber aboard the Galactic Research Station Omega-7, her breath catching at the sight before her. Crystalline shelves stretched impossibly high, each one holding artifact from civilizations that had risen and fallen across the galaxy over millions of years. The air hummed with the soft blue glow of preservation fields, and holographic displays flickered with ancient scripts and symbols from 1,000 different worlds. Impressive, is it not? Came a deep, resonant voice behind her. Sarah turned to face historian Zekthal, a towering figure whose chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the archive's lights. His four arms moved in graceful patterns as he spoke, a habit she'd noticed among his species during diplomatic meetings. The Veltar were known throughout the galaxy as the greatest keepers of knowledge, their minds capable of storing and cross-referencing information that would overwhelm most organic brains. "It's incredible," Sarah replied, adjusting the translation device at her throat. "I've never seen anything like it." Zekthal's mandibles clicked in what she'd learned was amusement. "Few have, Dr. Chun. This archive contains the collected wisdom of 3 million years of galactic civilization. Every major species, every significant discovery, every rise and fall of empires, all recorded here." Sarah nodded, trying to process the scope of what surrounded her. As Earth's first xenoarchaeologist to be granted access to the Veltar archives, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, and they were still considered newcomers by most established species. "I understand you're particularly interested in pre-spaceflight civilizations," Zekthal continued, leading her deeper into the archive. "We have extensive records of species in their developmental phases." "Actually," Sarah said, "I was hoping to learn more about ancient civilizations that might have influenced early human development. There are gaps in our archaeological record that we've never been able to explain." Zekthal's four eyes focused on her with renewed interest. "Ah, the young human seeks to understand her origins. How typical." Something in his tone made Sarah bristle slightly, but she maintained her professional demeanor. "Is there something wrong with wanting to understand our history?" "Not wrong, merely limited in scope." Zekthal gestured to a section of the archive where the shelves seemed to pulse with a different kind of energy. "You see, Dr. Chun, most species follow predictable patterns. They develop language, form societies, discover technology, achieve spaceflight, and eventually find their place in the galactic community. Humans, however," he paused, his antennae twitching in what seemed like frustration. "Humans are an anomaly. Your species appear in our monitoring systems seemingly overnight. One moment, you are primitive tool users scattered across a single world. The next, you are building spacecraft and deciphering languages that had taken other species millennia to master." Sarah felt her heart rate increase. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that in all our records spanning millions of years and thousands of species, there is no documented case of such rapid advancement. Most species require 50,000 years minimum to progress from basic agriculture to spaceflight. Humans did it in barely 6,000. They stopped before a massive crystalline construct that hummed with stored data." Zekthal placed one of his hands on its surface, and holographic displays materialized around them, showing timelines and evolutionary charts of dozens of species. "The Kethani took 90,000 years," he said, pointing to one timeline. "The Zephyrians required 120,000. Even the brilliant Altarians needed 75,000 years." His gaze fixed on Sarah. "Yet humans achieved the same progress in a fraction of that time. Maybe we're just naturally innovative," Sarah suggested, though she could hear the uncertainty in her own voice. Zekthal's mandibles clicked again, but this time it sounded less like amusement and more like skepticism. "Natural innovation does not account for the specific anomalies we observe. For instance, how did early humans develop mathematics that parallel theories discovered by species with 3 times your brain capacity? How did your language centers evolve to be compatible with galactic standard when you had never encountered other species?" Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. I don't understand what you're implying. I'm not implying anything, Dr. Chun. I am stating facts. Zekthal moved to another section of the archive, his movements more agitated than before. Your species exhibits signs of guided development. Guided by whom? Zekthal stopped walking and turned to face her fully. That, Dr. Chun, is the question that has puzzled our greatest historians for decades. We have found trace evidence of advanced interference in human development, but the civilization responsible remains a complete mystery. He led her to a smaller alcove where a single artifact sat on a pedestal. It was roughly the size of a human head, made of a material that seemed to shift between metal and crystal. Strange symbols covered its surface, pulsing with a faint inner light. This was discovered on Earth during your Renaissance period, Zekthal explained. It was found buried beneath what you call Rome, in a chamber that showed no signs of human construction. Our dating methods indicate it is approximately 50,000 years old. Sarah approached the artifact carefully, her scientific mind racing. What is it? We do not know. But more concerning is what is inside it. Zekthal touched another control, and the artifact became transparent, revealing intricate machinery that defied classification. This device contains technology that our most advanced species have yet to develop. Whoever created it possessed knowledge that surpasses current galactic understanding. And you think they influenced human development? The evidence suggests it. We have found 17 similar artifacts on worlds where rapid evolutionary leaps occurred. In each case, the native species developed far beyond their natural capacity in impossibly short time frames. Sarah studied the artifact, her mind trying to process the implications. But why? Why would an advanced civilization interfere with developing species? That is the central mystery, Zekthal admitted. What makes it more puzzling is that this civilization, whatever it was, seems to have vanished completely. No records, no ruins, no trace of their existence beyond these artifacts, and the species they appear to have enhanced. A new voice interrupted their conversation. Enhanced is such a clinical term. Both Sarah and Zekthal turned to see another figure approaching. This was clearly a Veltar, but older than Zekthal, his exoskeleton bearing the scars and marks of extreme age. His movements were slow but deliberate, and when he spoke, even Zekthal seemed to defer to him. Archivist Prime Thekval, Zekthal said, bowing slightly. I was not expecting your presence. I felt it was time to meet the human archaeologist, Thekval replied, his ancient eyes studying Sarah with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. Tell me, Dr. Chun, what is your opinion of coincidence? I'm sorry, Sarah asked, confused by the sudden change in topic. Coincidence, Thekval repeated. Do you believe that random events can align to create the appearance of design? Sarah considered the question carefully. In my experience, when patterns appear consistently, there's usually an underlying cause. Random events can create coincidence, but sustained patterns suggest intention. Thekval's mandibles clicked in approval. Wise, because what we have discovered about human development goes far beyond simple enhancement. The artifacts, the accelerated progress, the remarkable adaptability. These are not coincidences. He moved to another display, calling up star charts that showed human expansion since joining the galactic community. In 50 years, humans have established colonies on 47 worlds, he said. Most species require centuries to achieve such expansion. Moreover, humans have demonstrated an unprecedented ability to adapt to alien environments, forge alliances with species that have been enemies for millennia, and solve problems that have stumped galactic scientists for generations. Sarah felt both pride and unease at his words. We've had good teachers. Have you? Degvol challenged. Or have you simply been awakening capabilities that were already present? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Sarah looked between the two Veltar historians, sensing that she was on the verge of learning something that would change everything she thought she knew about humanity. What aren't you telling me? She asked finally. Thekval and Zekthal exchanged a look that needed no translation. After a long moment, Thekval spoke. 3 years ago, we discovered something that has shaken the foundations of our understanding. A cache of records hidden in the deepest part of this archive, sealed by technology we still cannot fully comprehend. He led them to a section of the archive that Sarah hadn't seen before. Here, the crystalline shelves gave way to structures that seemed almost organic, pulsing with rhythms that reminded her uncomfortably of a heartbeat. These records, Thekval continued, contain references to something called the Inheritor Project. The language is archaic, the technology referenced is beyond our understanding, but the implications are clear. What kind of implications? Sarah asked, though part of her wasn't sure she wanted to know. The record suggests that your mysterious benefactors did not simply enhance random species, Thekval said. They were selecting inheritors, choosing specific species to carry on some kind of legacy. Sarah felt the ground seemed to shift beneath her feet. Inheritors of what? That, said a new voice from the shadows, is what we intend to find out. Sarah spun around to see a figure emerging from the deeper recesses of the archive. Unlike the Veltar, this being was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and its eyes glowed with internal light. When it moved, Sarah could hear the subtle whirring of mechanical components. Dr. Chun, Zekthal said, his voice tight with what might have been fear. Meet Coordinator Vashti of the Machine Collective. They have been monitoring our research. Vashti stepped fully into the light, and Sarah could see that they were more machine than organic, a fusion of technology and biology that should have been impossible. The Machine Collective has been tracking the artifacts for 3,000 years, Vashti said, their voice carrying harmonics that made Sarah's teeth ache. We believe they represent more than simple uplift technology. They are keys. Keys to what? Sarah asked, Vashti's glowing eyes fixed on her. To understanding why certain species were chosen to inherit the galaxy's greatest secret. A secret that your people, Dr. Chun, may be closest to uncovering. The archive around them seemed to pulse with renewed energy, as if responding to Vashti's words. Sarah realized that she had walked into something far larger than a simple research expedition. What secret? She whispered. Thekval moved closer, his ancient voice dropping to barely above a whisper. The records speak of something called the Final Archive, a repository of knowledge left by the galaxy's first civilization, a civilization so advanced that they transcended physical existence entirely. And you think humans were chosen to find it? Not chosen, Vashti corrected. Prepared. Every enhanced species shows the same pattern: rapid development, exceptional adaptability, and, most importantly, the ability to think in ways that transcend conventional logic. Sarah's mind raced as she tried to process everything she was hearing. But why us? Why humans specifically? Because, Thekval said slowly, of all the enhanced species we have encountered, humans are the only ones who consistently find solutions that should be impossible. You solve problems by changing the rules rather than following them. We call it innovation, Sarah said weakly. We call it preparation, Vashti replied. Preparation for challenges that would destroy conventional thinking. The weight of their words settled over Sarah like a physical force. She looked around the archive with new eyes, seeing not just a repository of knowledge, but a testing ground, a place where species came to learn if they were ready for something greater. What happens now? She asked. Zekthal's mandibles clicked nervously. Now, Dr. Chun, we prepare you for the real test. Because tomorrow, we are going to show you something that no human has ever seen, an artifact that our greatest minds have been unable to decipher for over 2,000 years. Sarah felt her heart pounding. And you think I might be able to understand it? We think, Thekval said gravely, that you were born to understand it. As the lights in the archive dimmed to signal the end of the duty cycle, Sarah found herself staring at the mysterious artifact they had shown her earlier. Its symbols pulsed in patterns that seemed almost familiar, as if she had seen them before in dreams she couldn't quite remember. For the first time since arriving at the station, Sarah began to wonder if humanity's rapid rise to galactic prominence had been as accidental as everyone assumed. And, more troubling still, she began to wonder what price they might have to pay for their mysterious inheritance. Sarah spent the night in her assigned quarters, but sleep remained elusive. Her mind kept returning to the conversation in the archive, to the implications of what she had learned. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those pulsing symbols on the artifact, and each time they seemed a little more familiar. She had been chosen not for her expertise in xenoarchaeology, but because she was human. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. When the station's artificial dawn cycle began, Sarah found herself already dressed and ready. She made her way to the archive early, hoping to spend some time alone with the artifact before the others arrived. But as she entered the main chamber, she discovered she wasn't the first one there. Vashti stood before the transparent artifact, their mechanical fingers dancing over a holographic interface that Sarah hadn't seen the day before. Data streams flowed around them like living light, and the artifact's symbols were pulsing in response to whatever the machine collector coordinator was doing. "You're early, Dr. Chun," Vashti said without turning around. "I couldn't sleep," Sarah admitted, approaching cautiously. "What are you doing?" "Running comparative analysis against every language database we possess," Vashti replied, "including human linguistic patterns that you might not be consciously aware of." Sarah frowned. What kind of patterns? For the first time since she'd met them, Vashti seemed hesitant. "Dr. Chun, what do you know about human brain activity during periods of unconsciousness?" "You mean sleep?" "Basic neural maintenance, memory consolidation, dream processing." "Dreams," Vashti repeated, finally turned to face her. "Machine collective monitoring stations have been recording human settlement worlds for the past 30 years. We have detected unusual electromagnetic patterns emanating from human population centers during sleep cycles." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "You've been monitoring our dreams?" "Not intentionally. The patterns were discovered accidentally during routine sensor sweeps. But the more we studied them, the more apparent it became that they follow specific mathematical sequences." Vashti gestured to the holographic display, which now showed wave patterns that looked disturbingly organic. "These sequences, Dr. Chun, match the energy patterns emitted by the artifacts during periods of high activity." Sarah stared at the display, trying to process what she was seeing. "You're saying the humans dream in the same patterns as ancient alien technology?" "I am saying that human neural activity during sleep shows remarkable similarity to the communication protocols used by the most advanced artifacts we have discovered." Before Sarah could respond, Thekval and Zekthal entered the chamber. The elderly archivist Prime moved slowly but purposefully toward the artifact display, while Zekthal carried what appeared to be a sealed container. "Dr. Chun," Thekval said, "I trust you are prepared for today's revelation." Sarah looked around at the assembled beings, representatives of 3 different galactic powers, all focused intently on her. As prepared as someone can be for something they don't understand. Thekval's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval. Honest uncertainty is often more valuable than false confidence. "Zekthal, please prepare the inscription of questions." Zekthal carefully opened the container he carried, revealing an object that made Sarah's breath catch. It was a flat panel about the size of a book, but its surface seemed to contain infinite depth. Symbols moved across its face like living things, constantly shifting and rearranging themselves in patterns that hurt to follow directly. "This artifact," Thekval explained, "was recovered from the ruins of the Aztec Empire approximately 2,000 years ago. The Aztec were one of the galaxy's most intellectually advanced species. Their mathematical theories formed the basis for modern hyperspace travel." "What happened to them?" Sarah asked. "They disappeared overnight," Zekthal said grimly. "An entire interstellar civilization, gone without a trace. All that remained were their empty cities and this artifact, found in their most sacred temple." Vashti stepped closer to the group. "Every major galactic power has attempted to decipher the inscription. The Veltar applied their greatest linguistic minds for centuries. The Kethani tried mathematical approaches. The Zephyrians attempted psychic interpretation. All failed. And you think I might succeed where they failed? Sarah asked, though she found herself drawn to the artifact despite her skepticism. We think, Thekval said carefully, that the inscription may not be designed for conventional interpretation methods. As if responding to their conversation, the symbols on the inscription began moving faster, creating patterns that seemed to pulse in rhythm with Sarah's heartbeat. She stepped closer, and the sensation intensified. "What is it supposed to say?" she asked. "We have been able to identify fragments," Zekthal admitted. "References to the time of choosing, inheritors of the first knowledge, and something called the Awakening Protocol. But the syntax makes no sense in any known language structure." Sarah found herself reaching toward the inscription before she consciously decided to do so. Her fingers stopped just short of its surface as she became aware of what she was doing. "Is it safe to touch?" "Unknown," Vashti replied. "No being has ever made direct contact with the artifact. Previous research has been conducted entirely through remote sensing." "But you think I should try?" Thekval moved closer, his ancient eyes studying her face. "Dr. Chun, 3 hours ago, we received a transmission from Earth. Your government has reported unusual activity at archaeological sites around your homeworld. Ancient structures that have been dormant for millennia are beginning to emit energy signatures." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. "What kind of energy signatures?" "The same patterns we see in the artifacts," Vashti said. "It appears that your presence here, your proximity to these ancient technologies, is triggering responses across human space." "That's impossible." "Is it?" Thekval challenged. "You were the product of guided evolution, Dr. Chun. Your species was shaped for a specific purpose. Perhaps that purpose is beginning to reveal itself." Sarah stared at the inscription, its shifting symbols now seeming to call to something deep in her mind. "What do you think will happen if I touch it?" "We do not know," Thekval admitted. "But we believe it may be the only way to unlock the secret your species was prepared to discover." The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the archive's preservation systems. Sarah could feel the weight of galactic history pressing down on her, the expectations of 3 civilizations that had pinned their hopes on humanity's mysterious enhancement. "If this goes wrong," she said slowly, "if something happens to me, then we will have learned something important," Vashti said with mechanical pragmatism. "Comfort to the dying human," Sarah muttered, but she found herself stepping forward anyway. As her hand approached the inscription's surface, the artifact's glow intensified. The symbols began moving so rapidly they became a blur, and Sarah could hear something like music emanating from its depths, not through her ears, but directly into her mind. "Dr. Chun," Thekval said urgently, "the artifact is responding to your proximity in ways we have never observed. You may want to." Sarah's fingertips made contact with the inscription's surface. The world exploded into light and sound and meaning that transcended anything she had ever experienced. Information flooded her mind, not words or images, but pure concept and understanding that bypassed her conscious thoughts entirely. She saw the rise and fall of the galaxy's first civilization, beings of pure energy who had transcended physical existence eons before the first star was born. She watched as they seeded the galaxy with their knowledge, leaving artifacts and guidance for the species that would come after. But most importantly, she saw the pattern, the careful selection and enhancement of specific species across millions of years, each one prepared for a specific role in a vast design that spanned galactic epochs. The Aztec had been chosen as record keepers, their brilliant minds perfect for preserving knowledge across vast stretches of time. But they had learned too much too quickly, had tried to transcend their physical forms before they were ready, and had been consumed by the very knowledge they sought to preserve. Other species had faced similar tests and similar failures. The galaxy was littered with the remnants of civilizations that had been given great gifts but had proven unable to bear the responsibility that came with them. And now was humanity's turn. Sarah saw her species' true purpose in the cosmic design, not as inheritors of specific knowledge, but as bridges. Humans had been enhanced with the ability to translate between different forms of existence, to serve as intermediaries between the physical and transcendent realms. The first civilization had not vanished. They still existed, waiting in a state of being that purely physical species could not reach. But they needed physical agents to act on their behalf, to guide younger species toward enlightenment, while preventing them from making the same mistakes as their predecessors. The vision showed her glimpses of what was coming. Ancient machines awakening across the galaxy, ready to test every species for their readiness to join the cosmic community. Wars that would be fought not with weapons, but with ideas. Challenges that would require thinking beyond the boundaries of conventional physics. And at the center of it all, humanity would serve as guides and teachers, helping other species navigate the transition from physical to transcendent existence without losing themselves in the process. But the vision also showed her the price. To serve as bridges between realms, humans would have to give up their purely physical existence. They would become something new, something that was neither fully organic nor fully transcendent. The choice was not just Sarah's to make. It was a decision that would affect every human alive and every human yet to be born. Sarah felt herself being pulled back to normal consciousness, the overwhelming flood of information gradually organizing itself into memories she could actually process. She became aware that she was lying on the floor of the archive, with Thekval, Zekthul, and Vashti standing over her. "Dr. Chun," Thekval said urgently. "Can you hear us?" Sarah struggled to sit up, her mind still reeling from what she had experienced. "I can't hear you," she managed. "And I understand now." "Understand what?" Zekthul asked. Sarah looked at the inscription, which had now gone completely dark except for a single symbol in its center. A symbol that looked remarkably like the Chinese character for bridge. "I understand why they chose us," she said. "And I understand what we have to do." She got to her feet unsteadily, her mind racing as she tried to figure out how to explain what couldn't possibly be explained in words. "The first civilization isn't gone," she said. "They're waiting. And every species in the galaxy is going to face a choice in the coming years: evolve or disappear. Humans were enhanced to help them through that transition." "Help them how?" Vashti asked. Sarah looked around at her audience, representatives of civilizations that had dominated the galaxy long before humans had learned to make fire. "By teaching them that sometimes the greatest strength isn't in having all the answers," she said. "It's in knowing when to ask for help." The inscription pulsed once, as if in agreement, and then went completely silent. But Sarah could feel something new in her mind, a connection to knowledge and purpose that went far beyond anything she had imagined when she first stepped into the archive. 3 months had passed since Sarah's encounter with the inscription of questions, and the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. Reports flooded in daily from across human space and beyond, ancient artifacts awakening, mysterious energy signatures appearing near populated worlds, and, most significantly, other species beginning to experience the same rapid developmental leaps that had marked humanity's early history. Sarah stood in what had once been the archive's main chamber, but the space had been transformed into something unprecedented. A meeting hall where representatives from dozens of galactic civilizations gathered to discuss the unfolding crisis. The irony wasn't lost on her that the Veltar archives, once the galaxy's ultimate repository of ancient knowledge, had become a center for managing its future. The Cathani delegation reports successful contact with their enhancement protocol artifact, announced Ambassador Thekval, who had taken on a coordinating role despite his advanced age. They experienced what they describe as consciousness expansion, similar to Dr. Chen's initial contact. Sarah nodded, making notes on the holographic display that floated before her. Each species' enhancement experience was unique, but they all followed the same basic pattern: contact with ancient artifacts, overwhelming visions of galactic history, and, most importantly, understanding of their role in what the first civilization had called the Great Transition. What about the Zephyrian response? Asked Commander Helix, the human representative from Earth Galactic Relations Council. Vashti stepped forward, their mechanical form having become oddly comforting to Sarah over the past months. The Zephyrians have successfully activated their consciousness-bridging protocols. However, they are reporting difficulty with the emotional aspects of transcendence preparation. This was the pattern that had emerged. Each species brought different strengths to the Great Transition, but they also faced unique challenges. The highly logical Zephyrians struggled with the intuitive leaps required for transcendence. The emotionally complex Veltar found it difficult to let go of their attachment to physical existence. The Machine Collective faced the challenge of transcending their mechanical nature without losing their essential identity. And humans? Humans were discovering that their enhancement had given them something unprecedented in galactic history: the ability to help other species overcome their specific limitations. Dr. Chun called out historian Keptar, a middle-aged Veltar who had become Sarah's primary collaborator. We're receiving another request for human guidance teams. The Altarian colonies are reporting artifact activation, but their attempts at contact have been unsuccessful. Sarah smiled, remembering her first reaction to being called humanity's cosmic guidance counselor. It had seemed absurd then, but now she understood the profound responsibility it represented. "How many guidance teams do we have available?" she asked Commander Helix. 17 active teams across the galaxy, Helix replied. "But Dr. Patterson's team just completed their mission with the Drachmarie, so we could have 18 available within the week." The human guidance teams were perhaps the most remarkable development of the past 3 months. Ordinary humans, teachers, counselors, philosophers, even artists, were being selected for missions across the galaxy. They didn't need advanced scientific training or diplomatic credentials. They just needed to be human. "I'll take the Altarian mission personally," Sarah decided. Their mathematical focus might respond well to Dr. Kim's approach to pattern recognition. As the meeting continued around her, Sarah found her mind drifting to a conversation she'd had with Thekval the previous week. He had asked her a simple question that had been haunting her ever since. "Dr. Chun, are you certain that humanity is prepared for the responsibility of guiding other species toward transcendence?" The question struck at the heart of her deepest fears. Humanity had been in space for barely 50 years. They were still learning to manage their own planet's resources, still struggling with conflicts and misunderstandings among their own species. What right did they have to guide civilizations that had been exploring the galaxy for millennia? But every successful guidance mission provided the same answer. Humans succeeded not because they had all the solutions, but because they approached problems from directions that other species couldn't imagine. Dr. Chun, Vashti's voice pulled her back to the present. "We have received a priority transmission from Earth. Dr. Elizabeth Warren's archaeological team has made a discovery that may change our understanding of the enhancement protocol." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Elizabeth Warren was leading the investigation into Earth's awakening artifact sites, and her reports had consistently revealed surprises that challenged everything they thought they knew about humanity's enhancement. "What did they find?" Sarah asked. "Evidence that the enhancement protocol on Earth was never completed," Vashti replied, their mechanical voice carrying what seemed like confusion. "According to their analysis, human enhancement was deliberately left unfinished." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every other species they had encountered showed signs of complete enhancement. Their development had been guided to a specific endpoint that prepared them for their role in the Great Transition. But humans appear to be different. "Unfinished how?" Thekval asked, his ancient voice tight with concern. Vashti displayed a holographic representation of the data. "Dr. Warren's team has discovered that human neural architecture contains what they describe as empty frameworks. Neural pathways that appear designed to accommodate capabilities that humans do not currently possess." Sarah studied the display, her enhanced understanding allowing her to grasp concepts that would have been incomprehensible to her a few months earlier. What she saw made her breath catch. "They're upgrade paths," she whispered. "What?" Commander Helix asked. "The empty frameworks. They're not incomplete enhancement. They're upgrade paths," Sarah said, her mind racing as the implications became clear. Every other species was enhanced to fulfill a specific role, but humans were enhanced to evolve. Fekval's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "You are suggesting that human enhancement was designed to be ongoing? That your species will continue to develop new capabilities as needed?" "It makes sense," Sarah said, pacing as she worked through the logic. "Think about it. We're supposed to guide other species through transitions we've never experienced ourselves. How can we do that with fixed capabilities? We need to be able to adapt and grow to meet whatever challenges arise." Vashti's optical sensors focused intently on her. "If your hypothesis is correct, Dr. Chun, then humanity represents something unprecedented in galactic history. A species designed not for a specific purpose, but for infinite adaptability." The weight of this revelation settled over the assembled representatives. Sarah could see the mix of awe and fear in their expressions as they contemplated what it meant to work alongside a species that might be capable of unlimited development. "There's something else," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper as another piece of the puzzle fell into place. "The inscription I touched, it wasn't just giving me information about the Great Transition. It was activating the next phase of human development." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings who had become her colleagues and friends over the past months. Every human who has participated in a guidance mission has reported new capabilities afterward: enhanced intuition, improved pattern recognition, the ability to perceive connections that were previously invisible. "We're not just helping other species transcend. We're transcending ourselves in the process." Commander Helix leaned forward, his expression intense. "Are you saying that every human involved in the transition is being changed by it?" "I'm saying that change might be the point," Sarah replied. "The first civilization didn't just want to help species transcend physical existence. They wanted to create a species capable of shepherding that process for millions of years to come." Fekval stood slowly, his age form somehow radiating new energy. "If you are correct, Dr. Chun, then we are witnessing the birth of something truly unprecedented. A species designed not to achieve transcendence, but to facilitate it for others while continuously evolving themselves." The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives from dozens of species began debating the implications. But Sarah found herself thinking about something else entirely, a memory from the vision she had experienced with the inscription. In that vision, she had seen the future of the galaxy. Not the immediate future of the next few years, but the long-term destiny of conscious life itself. She had seen organic species transcending physical limitations, machine intelligences achieving true consciousness, and energy beings learning to interact with matter in new ways. And at the center of it all, she had seen humans, not as transcended beings themselves, but as eternal guides, forever changing and growing to meet the needs of species they had yet to encounter. "Dr. Chun," Vashti said, interrupting her thoughts, "we have another incoming transmission. This one is from outside galactic space." Sarah felt her enhanced intuition suddenly flare to life, warning her that something significant was about to happen. "Origin point?" she asked. "Unknown," Vashti replied. "But the transmission is using artifact communication protocols, and it appears to be addressed specifically to humanity." The chamber fell silent as Vashti activated the transmission. The message that came through was not in words or images, but in pure conceptual understanding that bypassed language entirely. It was a greeting from the first civilization. After millions of years of waiting and preparation, they were ready to make contact again, not with individual species seeking transcendence, but with their chosen intermediaries, the humans who would help guide the galaxy through its next phase of evolution. The message contained coordinates for a rendezvous point beyond the galactic rim, along with an invitation that would change everything. The first civilization was ready to begin teaching humanity their true purpose in the cosmic order. Sarah looked around at her colleagues, Veltar historians, machine collective coordinators, Cathani mathematicians, Zephyrian philosophers, and realized that this was only the beginning. Everything they had accomplished in the past 3 months had been preparation for what was coming next. How long until we can organize an expedition to the rendezvous coordinates? She asked Commander Helix. 2 weeks, assuming we can get approval from Earth Command and the Galactic Council, he replied. Sarah nodded, her mind already working on the preparations they would need. But more than that, she was thinking about the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. It had started with a simple archaeological expedition and a historian's challenge about reading ancient artifacts. Now, it was culminating in first contact with the galaxy's original architects. Commander, she said with a smile, I think we're going to need a bigger ship. As the chamber filled with planning discussions and excited debates about the implications of direct contact with the first civilization, Sarah found herself looking once more at the now dormant inscription of questions. The artifact that had started it all remained silent, its purpose fulfilled, but Sarah could sense that it was somehow satisfied, as if it had been waiting eons for exactly this moment. The galaxy was about to enter a new age, guided by a species that had been prepared for this role since before they learned to read. And Sarah Chun, archaeologist turned cosmic ambassador, would be there to help write the next chapter of galactic history. The inscription had been right after all. Sometimes the greatest discoveries came not from having all the answers, but from being willing to admit when you needed help. And sometimes being human was exactly what the universe needed. The real work was about to begin.